Hello everybody, my name is Victor Estima. I was born in Brazil and I'm 28 years old. By the age of 19 I moved to the UK. That's where I'm based now, and since then I've been trying to develop the Jiu-Jitsu around that country. And I'm here with you guys to share one of my favorite techniques, which is a foot lock using the hold of my arms, which we call a Estima lock. That's a move that I've been very successful in training and competing. It's worth saying that also I helped my brother, Braulio Estima, to use that move, and he was very successful on that as well in ADCC. As myself as well, I've managed to use that on the World Championships and Pan Americans and stuff. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm gonna make my best to give all the details about that. Hello guys, so now we're going to be starting to show some of the details of the movements, and I'd like to introduce you guys to help me out, Cole Morifuji. So he's going to be the man here to give me a hand, and we're going to make sure that his foot is nice and warmed up because we're going to be working a lot on that. So basically here I'd like to start. So, Mori, so here, one of the first things I'm going to start talking to you about the foot lock is when I am in a situation when I'm passing the half guard and my opponent usually have this knee here to push my body away, creating a little bit of a frame, and this is a very popular position. And then this situation can happen when a person has the hands pushing my shoulder, and then I will be inducing the situation a little bit. It's not like I'm gonna grab the foot and trying to pull all the way. So it's about making my opponent think I'm doing something else. So one of the things I do is to maintain my hand dominant on the top of his arm, and then I use my other arm crossing to the opposite leg. So as you can see here, I'm grabbing the bottom leg, pushing the arm across. I have the person with the frame, and I'll continue to lean forward and inducing him to react a little bit. Every time I push, my opponent tends to push back. So whenever he's pushing me back, I will just start to use my elbow to roll his hand a little bit in front of my belly. As you can see here, his foot was a little bit on the side of my hip, and now I'm actually inducing him to push the foot a little bit on the middle of my stomach. At this moment, he has no clue that the foot might happen. So what I'm going to do is I continue to insist, but keeping my elbow tight, so not allowing him to bring it back. So as I'm coming in, he's pushing me back all the time. Once I feel the biting point of him pushing me back, I will roll with my right hand up, locking and hiding like a real naked choke on the top of his arm, on top of his leg. So I will come back, pulling, lock it, and now I will pull his heels up and squeeze my stomach towards his foot, creating the position to tap. So one of the main things here that I'm doing is to make sure that I slide his foot across on the stomach right to that position it needs to be. So having that, I'm always going to use that while I'm controlling the pants. So the job is done by my elbow sliding. But if my weight is too forward, I'm trying to do that, and I won't move. So I move my bum back a little bit and curving my stomach with the gap. So instead of pushing my body forward, I actually curve my body back, allowing a much bigger gap. So he slides back exactly on the right position. So as you can see here, I have the arm, slide and push the elbow, and the position is in the perfect position. So here, lock the arm on the way out. So here I continue to press, and he thinks the arm is there, but the leg is on the right spot, but it doesn't feel like it is any danger. And that's why this position can be so effective, because the person doesn't even realize that might happen. So that's when I increase, the person pushes me back, I come back with the position already set up. So I pull my arm inside, already creating pressure, only with one hand, pulling this up and bringing my stomach on the way. As the other hand will lock over the top with a rear naked choke. And then I will just lift and push my belly on the leg. So push my belly to his foot and lift the shin up to the top. And like this, you're gonna get a very tight foot lock. And that's really the beginning, where this is the original foot lock. That's how it starts. So remember, with the frame, grip, slide, come back, pull the position. So you got to really be careful when you're training that position as well, because sometimes if you go really fast, the opponent has no time to tap, and that might cause him to pop this foot. So I really would be concerned when I'm trying that, training with your partners, that, I have experienced this in training, trying to pull that across, and it can be very, very, very sharp. So just make sure you watch that. Now we're going to be looking to a different perspective of the foot lock. Now is when the opponent has a really good locked up position here on the half guard of the frame. He's protecting his foot by hooking behind my back over here, so I'm trying to get it. I'm not going to be crazy about going for the foot lock and only hunt for that. I'm going to completely leave that on the side and keep that in the back of my mind, and I'm going to start switching to a pass. So here, one of the things I like how to pass when I'm frustrated, when I cannot deal with the crush in the knee. Every time I crush, my opponent pushes the neck, and I'm not able to get that right. I started to switch to a little bit of a knee pass, getting the knee control, hand on the collar, starting to control the sleeve, and to see what my opponent's gonna do. And something that happens very often is when I'm trying to slide over here, my opponent worries about it and loops the foot over here. So we have the leg lasso here. So whenever that happens, I know the foot is exactly where I want it to be. But again, I don't want to be the kind of straight away on it. I'm going to still maintain the position here, and notice that I will drop the arm down so he doesn't have no controls on my collar. Because one of the things that I need for this position is to have my free collar. So keeping this arm control down helps me to have that. So even though he has an arm control, that is still a very good chance for me to get it, because it's not about how I'm gonna get this. Like I don't need to be, even though he controls, I can still move my arm back and forth, see? Sliding down and up. So I'm just gonna follow the leg and I'll pull it down. Now, even if you try to pull it, I lock. So it makes it a lot more difficult for my opponent to pull the arm out when I put all the weight into my own thigh. So I lock my elbow down, creating more tension here, so I can secure this angle, because I really want to have my forearm as close as possible to the heel. Okay, so once I have that, I can pull into my belly and let it go the hand that I was on the control and lock on the top. Now I can step in a little bit with my foot and rotate a little as I will continue to pull. Just having this angle. See how I switch my hips as I pull it. So it's really strong, and I have more power through my legs. Not only the arms, but also legs. So, looking at this again, I'm here with the position. I could have come from a different perspective too. Not necessarily from a half guard. I could come, for example, from a De La Riva guard. So my opponent comes here. He has a good De La Riva, so he has a good control on my sleeve. I try to step over, I bring the fight to the center. It's very common that he will loop it from there. As soon as he loops, look, I know this is there. I even allow him to get the loop, but I keep the arm control. So the only thing is gonna happen, again, look, I will have to just bring my arm inside here, look. That's all I need. As you can see here, they are bringing my arm into this angle and lean my weight on that so he doesn't pull it back on. Now I know the position is set. So from here, look, I've got it. Allow space for my other hand to come inside. And now, this is the big thing. A lot of people tend to even do this position from here, and they just go up, but it doesn't have the right angle. So what I do is to step in with my foot, and I'll circle back inside. And now I have the upper strength position. Now, even if my opponent, for example, trying to come inside of my leg and trying to do any sort of things, it becomes much easier for me to continue to go, because I can even drop my weight on his knee, and from that I've got a very good angle. So as you probably can see, the movement of the foot when I'm getting the foot lock is like a toe hold. So a lot of people think about the foot lock, how a straight position here like this, but it's not. A toe hold comes to grab the toes and rotate down. So I try to do that
with my belly, I have the toe hold. So my belly does the job of pulling, and my other hand makes a rotation to the side, creating more turn. Therefore, it makes my opponent even want to turn a little bit. So that's one of the reasons why, once I've got the position nice and set up, as you can see here, look, you throw the arms, I adjust. Once I step in and I rotate, now it makes it much more difficult for my opponent to roll. So if you try to roll a little bit, the position is stuck. That would only be able to happen if I'll be here, because there's a lot of room for him to go. That's one of the possibilities. He might try to roll on me when I'm going for it. But once I have this leg set up here, and he's trying to roll, I'm right in the middle of the roll. So now the foot is free to continue to go. So that makes this movement here a lot effective, very effective when I pull it off. If I can get the angle switched on straight away, and when that comes fast, there's no time. The position is gonna be very strong. So again, when you're training, when you're practicing, make sure you're concerned with your opponent's foot. So now, one of my really good ways how to trick my opponent into fall into this position, as again, is not to be straightforward into the foot, so it's to play the game as normal. Like, think about all the passes that you're gonna have and what the reaction of your opponent towards the passes, so you can actually start to see how much the foot becomes vulnerable. So, on this perspective, one of the ways I do, imagine that I would be in a situation here. I had a collar, maybe there was a De La Riva situation there. You can get a De La Riva, that's it could be here. I could just kick out the position here, look, walk into this position, creating the angle for the pass while he's already set him up with the lasso. So as soon as he already set up with the lasso, I know he needs to do the lasso in order to defend, or I will pass. So I know that, so I can predict the foot coming, and the moment that it comes, I will balance myself with the foot, drag my foot right inside, and now I'm pretty standing over here, and I can set up with the foot cooling straight away. So the angles will still remain from the other position that we'll be working on, setting up my hip position, my knee position in a way that is harder for him to roll, but this time a bit more dynamic, where he'll be struggling to be holding the position or reaching the grip and stop my hand from working, because I will use the momentum of the pass, know he's gonna loop, so when he loops, I catch in the position and there's no way out. As soon as I know I've got the foot, I gotta rotate with it. So, look at this again. I was completely in a De La Riva position. He's got a grip, got a collar. One of the things I do, he grabs hold of my ankle. I can even break the grip here and go back to here, look. Passing my opponent here to the side where he loops. As soon as he's there, 1, 2, catch. Step in the position and roll the foot. So that here really happens to me in a lot of sense. That could be exactly the same perspective of thought, even when I'm here with the normal position, having the knee, whenever he loops, I'm already catching on the way. So the same thought applies to every time my opponent will loop, or as you say, the lasso over my arm, I can already feel it. That foot comes to the right position without me having to do anything. So I take an opportunity of that and I capitalize immediately. And that's when I get a lot of surprises. Because at that moment, he's really concerned that I will pass. The guard is open, he's all loose. He needs to set up something with his leg. And that's why it makes so efficient, because he doesn't expect, and he has to do something like that to stop me from passing. So keep it in mind that I'm not really going like, I need to get a foot. I really am offering the pressure and the setup for the pass. So if you're really genuine on your passes and create real challenges on your opponent, you will see how much more effort he will make to be able to put the foot over there to defend. So I even make it easier for him by even dropping my arm a little bit, so whenever he puts it, it's already on the position to lock. So here again, remember I had the collar position, step out, so I'm already clear, look, circling around where he grabs it. As you can see, the foot is already there, but the difference is my arms are straight. So once I bend my arm, he drops the hip, see? And I catch. That movement here, that's when it gets, look. Pull it, and again, circle my foot in, and get the position. So here, again, is one of the positions I've done a lot in competitions because it's more dynamic, it's not from a set position, and therefore, I'll be able to pull it off all the way on the movement of my opponent. What I'd like to share with you guys now is whenever you're getting this kind of experience, you're starting to get the lock a little more, you will notice that some people are just very, very, very flexible. And I hope it's your case, by the way. But you know, this is really key. Sometimes you learn the angles of the movements of the lock, the turn, but sometimes you have those flexible people that you need to understand how to continue to generate the pressure, even though the person has a flexible foot. It's very similar to the idea is like an omoplata, for example. When you get a very flexible shoulders, sometimes it's quite difficult to finish the position just by sitting through. You got to make a way to kind of continue to roll that position. Sometimes people even roll on omoplata. So with the foot, we're just going to continue to find that same concept, but taking over into the foot lock. So the foot lock rotation, if I get over here, please, Cole. Imagine what makes his foot really hurt again is the rotation of the toes down and the lift of the heel. As I'm doing that, that creates his foot, the body to turn. So what I want to do is to find a way to generate more rotation that way, whenever that foot is really flexible. So imagine the person's foot can really go as far as that. So I need to find a way to create that rotation. So I will go back to the very same setup that we did before. Whenever I'm clearing the leg, my opponent have a look. So he's got the lasso, he got the position, and I started to go from here, and he is very flexible. A lot of the times he can even want to hug me. That's when I push my foot. Look, from here, I will step through. Now I have the lock really strong, but now I have the whole way down to put the foot lock. So that's when the lock is really strong. Here, this is when the position that if you're not very careful, it's gonna really, really break this, okay? Whenever the situation is really locked up, because what happened is he's still stuck with the toes, and now I continue to have a very strong pressure, lifting his heels to me, but not with the hand, but with the forearm. And now when I sit down here, doing that movement, that means his foot is going as far as down there. So that's why this gets really powerful. So again, I'll get a situation here, we got a position, lock, very flexible foot, look, sit. Now look how rotated I am, the position is still strong and locked up. If I take my hands off here, you can see how stuck his toes really are. And that's why sometimes, even in competitions before, the referees never really recognize some of the foot locks I did. The foot was in real danger, but the referee couldn't recognize. So therefore, this position here, as you can see, how stuck. I only need to do with my with my hands here. Look, you're already tapping. The pressure is really strong, and then having that all locked up, plus the weight dropping, and that goes. That is another setup that I use now just on the last Abu Dhabi Pro quarterfinals against a really tough opponent. And the setup was for my open guard completely. You know, in my perspective, you really think about when I'm passing the guard, when I'm engaged with the opponent, the way I think about passing is sometimes when I have trouble to go through the pressure, to go through the legs of my opponent and their grips, I tend to kind of do a step back. You know, I do that step back to readjust the passes, to readjust the grips, because I realized those grips wasn't good enough for me. So I try to come back out. And that's, for example, how it works. Let's say he's here, he's got grips on me, and suddenly I bring my knee, I break it away, and I step out, and I see the situation happening. I got out, I'm on my feet, his legs are on the way. I can maybe try to go a Toriano pass and do some passing guard, but a lot of the times I see that leg and the opponent sometimes trying to hook me here, or they're trying to hook around, or they're trying to reach for me somehow. But everything that happens here is a little bit reachable and visible for me. So one of the things I'm gonna do is, as this is happening, I will just gonna push with my hands until I lock the position. Now I've got this position really strong. The only difficult about this position when I have this foot here is that his body is hold free. There's no really an angle that I can generate. For example, I'm not as close as to him as before. I'm a little bit away, and from now he gives me a little bit less control to what's happening. So if I just go with the foot, he can lift his hips really high and roll. Therefore, I don't get the path, I don't get the position so strong. So from here, as I lock the situation from that position, as I was doing the open guard, I can slide and pull it and pull the hook right underneath my stomach. And I realized by having this foot here and I'm away from him, it stops me from getting it because his hips are free, he can roll, he can defend himself, even create a little trouble with me coming to my leg. So before that actually happened, I'm gonna get a hold of the foot and I'm gonna sit down over, try to be always inside of his leg, just in case of a possible foot lock for me as well if I don't get this one. Because if I have this one here, I sit down and don't get it, my foot is also achievable. So if I can, I make sure that I step over. To be fair, if the position applied correctly and you're very confident on that, by the time you sit down, the foot is gone, so therefore it taps first. But even then, I don't want to allow any possible risk if the position goes wrong. So always thinking about the head. Okay, so again, from here, I lock the position and step in. Step in on the leg, and now I will sit down. I know that a lot of the times when I'm here, my opponent can continue to roll. So as he's rolling, I will step over the hip. So that's when I lock his hips from rolling. Now he's gonna try to roll, and now I have a straight line. Yes. So here, whenever I go, normal straight, he will be gone. So the problem would be if I stayed here. As it's gonna come under, look, it can roll, roll, and then I lose the position, see? So make sure as I'm rolling, if he rolls, stop the foot on the hip too, and continue the roll. So this over here works very, very good for me. I think I used more than once in competitions. Like when I get the foot, I sit back, the opponent will try to roll. When he rolls, I swing my leg over the hip, stopping the roll as the movement flows. Okay, so I'm gonna show you one more time here how I set it up. So again, we were engaged. I'm trying to pass, he's got good grips, and I'm struggling here to get the pass. Sometimes he has a really strong grip here, and I realize that this start here is not giving me much. So this is a concept apart from the foot lock. This is, I can't win this fight here. I'm gonna start circling out a little bit and pull it out, look, and stretch out and try to get a little bit of guard. He might be hooking me here a little bit here, look, step out and get a bit of like a Toriano pass. So, as you can see here, I've got this position, I saw the foot, he cannot come to me so easily, I have the leg, so I just let him push the leg into me, and I lock the position. Now, I know that he might try to roll, so I step down with the foot inside. Okay, so as I'm sitting back, he's gonna get tapped, but he wants to roll. That's when the position happens. As I'm going, he's gonna roll. So my body's gonna even fall. See? That is the moment that I will allow even easier for me to swing my leg over while he's rolling. So as I'm going, look, pulling, helps me to swing the leg. Now his roll is stuck. Now if he continues to roll, he can't, and now I have the free lock to continue to pull. So the movement is exactly the same as every other. Continue to pull the foot towards your stomach, push the stomach inside of the toes, and full force up. And then you will see that position gets stuck, the foot is vulnerable, and you just go. And again, in training, make sure you consider your opponent, don't go all the way. Okay, in competition, sometimes you just gotta go fast, and most of the times, this position ends up hurting your opponent. So I know it's a pretty nasty one, but it's effective, and that's what matters. You know, sometimes you gotta get a position strong, and you gotta believe in it, and you gotta get it. So again, if you're thinking about a competition, the mindset is completely different than if you'd be in a training session. So, from every position, you know, that I'm working on, sometimes we can keep our mindsets very singular, very much on one side. So I always like to open a perspective. How can you do it in an inverted way? Some way that, you know, becomes more trickier, so the opponent doesn't